Well, it certainly was at least at points, frustrating game to watch, but either way, it was very fun to listen to. What's cracking, everybody, and welcome back to Kraken R&R, where the Kraken blow an early 2-0 lead and end up losing 5-3 to the Winnipeg Jets in Winnipeg. But the story of the game is the history that the Kraken make, as they have the first ever in NHL history all-black TV broadcast, as Everett Fitzhugh comes over from the radio side to join JT Brown on the TV side for Root Sports in this game, with John Forsland on other duties elsewhere. And first things first, it has to be said, as I was expecting they would, they did an absolutely fantastic job of it. For Everett, I'm pretty sure this is the first full broadcast of a game that I've listened to of his, obviously with him on the radio side, and I'm usually watching TV, so other than the highlights, I haven't had as much of a chance to listen to a full broadcast of his. And while at points it was obvious that he's much more used to calling radio, considering there were times where it didn't even seem like he had to breathe to stay alive with how much he was providing, it also wasn't overwhelming like it could be if you just took a radio call and put it on top of a TV broadcast, considering how much extra explaining the visuals they have to do on the radio side. He certainly did a very good job of bringing extra energy to the broadcast, as well as his own unique sayings like number of ticks left to talk. Meanwhile, with JT Brown, who I think has been great ever since probably around the first month of the season, especially considering, again, it's just his first year in the booth, continued to improve in this one, and certainly didn't seem thrown off at all by having a new co-host for the first time in his short TV career so far. Which brings me to maybe the most important part of why their broadcast was so enjoyable, and that is that there was clear chemistry between the two of them, certainly helped out by the fact that knowing that this was inevitably going to come, the Kraken have had them doing a lot of promotional video type of stuff together, so it isn't like they were new to working together by any means. So all in all, again, very, very well done by the two of them, and an awesome historic moment for the team and the sport as a whole, and something that I can't wait to see more of down the road as the years go on, especially for the Kraken, as both of these guys I would imagine will be around for a while. That all having been said, though, if I was going to be a little bit critical, I would say that the one big downside is that the team didn't give them a better game to call for this first historic moment. I mean, it certainly could have been worse. This game was miles better than the last game the Kraken played, but in spite of how the vast majority of the first period went, the rest of the game was largely frustrating to watch. Okay, maybe that's being a little bit unfair. Really, the Kraken did play well for the vast majority of the game and even outplayed the Jets, I would say, more often than not. The problem was that when Seattle did make mistakes, they really made them count. Things do get off to a pretty good start for the Kraken. For one, Carson Soucy's back off the IR and into the active roster for the first time in a while. And then early on in the game, the Kraken get their first power play. Of course, as you're probably tired of hearing by now, over the last month or so, the Kraken power play has not necessarily been something to look forward to, and in some cases just downright bad for them. And even with them getting their first 5-on-4 goal in their last 40 attempts on the power play, in their last attempt against the Leafs in the previous game, even that goal just came on an early McCann shot that happened to sneak through the goaltender and just over the goal line to count for a goal. So it really wasn't born out of all that much that the power play did, and more just McCann taking shots. This first power play against the Jets, though, does look significantly different than what we've gotten used to seeing over the last month, and in a good way. For one, the puck is moving a lot quicker than we've gotten used to. Still, maybe not quite as quick as you'd necessarily like to see, ideally, and definitely not as quick as we've seen some of the better power plays around the league do against the Kraken, but it's a significant improvement. And on top of that, they're actually taking shots off on goal rather than just continuously passing the puck around the outside. And eventually, one of those passes leads to one of those shots. It's a one-timer from Dunn that gets past everybody and finds Metal hitting the post and into the net. And now, whether the first one was fluky or not, it's two power plays in a row for the Kraken that have come up successful 5-on-4 after that stretch of 39 where they had just two power play goals, both of which on a two-man advantage. Plus, after that horrendous special teams game against the Leafs, it's a good start for the special teams here with a good-looking power play goal. And now the PK is going to get a chance to add to that as Eberle gets caught for a holding call in the Kraken end, and the Jets are going to get their first power play. And it's a pretty good power play unit that the Jets have, as well, as they were coming into this game ranked 7th in the league against a Kraken penalty kill that over the last couple of weeks has been letting goals in about as frequently as you'd want to be stopping them. But the PK does its job here, and it does it well. In the first half, using largely defense and getting the puck out of the zone, and in the second half, it's Grubauer who's the best penalty killer, making a couple of pretty nice saves. Coming off the successful kill, and now early in the game with the Kraken already being successful on both special teams units, a big surprise again after that Toronto game, they're pressing for more right away on the Jets' end, getting a couple of good chances, Donskoy getting denied on a nifty spin move right in front of the net, and then eventually it's Johansson circling around behind the Jets' net, out in front of it. He's given a little bit too much space by the combination of Scheifele and Wheeler, who's shading away from him, and eventually just decides to take the shot himself and buries it to give the Kraken the early 2-0 lead. And it's a lead that the Kraken would continue to try to build on against a Jets team that might just be tired on the second half of a back-to-back, as the Kraken are absolutely controlling this entire first frame pretty much from start to finish, and end up getting another power play with just 34 seconds remaining. Sure, with just 34 seconds remaining, there's probably not a great chance that the Kraken are able to score to make it 3-0 before the intermission, but the special teams have been pretty good in this game so far, so there's always a chance. And oh no, what's happening? What are you doing? Come on! It's DeMello who's able to spring Lowry on a 2-on-1 break along with Donato. Lowry's able to get the pass past Gio in front of the net to Donato, who gets it past Grubauer. There's not a whole lot Grubauer can do about this one. It's just a complete boneheaded mistake by, I guess, the entire Kraken team defensively to allow the Jets to score with just 12 seconds left in the period and just 34 seconds left when this power play started. It's a shorthanded goal that brings the Jets to within 1. Just when you thought the special teams were getting better, it's now 2 games in a row with a shorthanded goal given up. And then, to make matters worse, just after the Jets are able to kill off the remainder of that Kraken power play to start the second period, right as it ends, Eberle makes a stupid decision to try to pass the puck backwards into the Kraken defensive zone. It's immediately picked off. Larson isn't able to get a defensive stick on it, and Pierre-Luc Dubois, who gets a clear shot and is able to beat Grubauer. It's just a comedy of errors for the Kraken, and now the game is tied 2-2. For one, again, I have absolutely no idea what Eberle was thinking with that pass backwards into the defensive zone that led to the turnover. 2, Pierre-Luc Dubois, as well as Blake Wheeler, who was also involved in the play, are 2 of the worst possible Jets players you could turn the puck over to. 3, Larson has to be able to have a better effort and get a stick on this defensively than what he's able to muster. And finally, even though there have been a whole host of things that have gone wrong to get us to this point, with the puck on the stick of one of the Jets' better goal scorers, this is a shot that Grubauer just has to be able to come up with a save on. It ends up getting over his glove shoulder and into the top corner of the net. It is a pretty much perfect shot from PLD, but again, it's one that Grubauer has to be able to have in order to bail his defense out, especially with the clean look that he's given. Sure, when all is said and done, the defense is going to take responsibility for this one, but still. Towards the middle of the period, the Kraken do get a number of prime grade A scoring chances that, for the life of me, I don't know how they didn't manage to capitalize on at least one of them to regain the lead. It starts with McCann getting a wide open shot in the slot off a great pass by Donato, but his shot just goes wide of the net, rebounds well off the boards, and almost comes back over the net in front of it where Donato was going to be able to put it in, but it bounces off of the crossbar and lands on top of the net instead of going in front of it, so the Jets managed to dodge that bullet. Both Eberle and Dunn then get what could certainly be described as high danger scoring chances from the slot themselves, both of them finding post and not net as that stays out. And finally, Järnkrok also gets a very good chance off on the net that has a big save keep it out of it, and the Kraken have a number of good opportunities come up empty. Seattle, though, does at least look like they've completely flipped momentum in their favor and should be able to take control of the game here and eventually get that 3-2 lead. Right up until eventually the Jets are able to clear the zone and get the puck down into the Kraken zone. And as the Kraken are regrouping, Alexiak turns it right over to Stastny, who finds Wheeler wide open in the slot and he beats Grubauer to give the Jets the 3-2 lead. And so here we are in a game where the Kraken had a 2-0 lead, and now halfway through the second period, although they have looked like the better team for the vast majority of the game, which I don't think is unfair to say by any means, they've made 3 huge mistakes, and all 3 of them have ended up in the back of their net. I guess after another embarrassing defensive play by the Kraken and another embarrassing goal that they give up to surrender that now 3-2 Jets lead, they do press right back on the Jets, trying to respond quickly. Donskoy gets denied again on another one of those nifty spin moves in the slot. But eventually it's the Jets who are going to get a power play after the Kraken come up empty, thanks to Gord getting frustrated, I think, from a non-call earlier in the game. Either way, it's an ill-advised big hit that he lays on Scheifele, boarding him a little bit too far away from the boards, hitting him in the back. That draws one heck of a crowd, and Gord ends up on the ice. He does, though, end up with the boarding call, and then there's traded roughing calls, so yeah, Jets power play. I guess the bright side is, unlike the second attempt for the power play, this second attempt for the penalty kill does also come up successful, and the Kraken are able to get to the end of the second period, still down 3-2 in a game where they probably should have the lead. It is a pretty back and forth start to the third period for at least the first 6 or 7 minutes of it. The Jets probably do get the better of that period of play, playing very strong defensively at their end of the ice and not making it easy on the Kraken when they're in the Kraken end either. Seattle still is getting their chances, and really throughout this game, I do have to say that the Kraken were doing a much better job of taking shots when they had the opportunities to, and not overthinking things too much in the offensive zone like we've seen them do for large chunks of this season, which has been a big problem as far as offensive production is concerned. The other thing that the Kraken have consistently struggled with in the offensive end, or at least one of the other things anyway, but certainly one of the bigger ones, has been getting consistent net front presence, which they just have not been doing for the vast majority of this season. And it's something that, especially with their tendency to take shots from the outside, is absolutely crucial to try to get those second chances off of rebounds or tip pucks in or just screen the goaltenders so those shots can get in the first place. And while they were doing better at taking shots, even if the final shot total of 23 is a bit misleading in that way, they just weren't getting that net front presence to try to capitalize on the rebounds that were there. Finally, though, with about 7 minutes left in the third, the Kraken do get some of that net front presence as Eberle does the right thing by sticking around the net as a geo shot goes wide of the net but bounces out to the far side, where Johansson's able to pick it up, and with Eberle still on the far side hanging out in that back door next to the net, Johansson's able to get it through the crease past Comrie, and Eberle is able to bank it into the net to tie the game at 3. And the Kraken are back into this game that, well, again, they probably should never have been out of in the first place. Shortly after that, the Jets are going to get their third power play of the game as Donato takes a bad hooking call in the offensive zone. Really not the place you want to be taking that kind of penalty, especially when your team just tied up the game late in the third. Fortunately for Donato and the Kraken, though, the Kraken power play steps up big again for a third time, with their best kill of the night, not letting anything get going for that top 10 power play of the Jets. And so with that being the last power play that either team would get on the night, it ends up being a bit of a mixed bag again for the Kraken power play, but a very good 3-for-3 night for the Kraken penalty kill that could certainly have used a night like this one. A minute later, though, let's just be honest, very nice, quick, crisp passing play by the Jets goes from the boards where it starts with Raquel out to Connor, quickly out to Morrissey in the slot, who's all alone, and his shot beats Grubauer to give the Jets the late 4-3 lead. And while yes, to this point in the game, the Jets have scored a few goals now off of just boneheaded mistakes by the Kraken handing the Jets golden opportunities, with this particular one, it's just a beautiful play by the Jets to give themselves that golden opportunity that they're able to score on. And while you probably would like to see Grubauer come up with the save here, especially with it tied late in the game, it would have been a pretty nice save for him to make if he had been able to do so. Plus, I guess to be fair, Grubauer does come up with an absolute robbery on that very same line just a couple minutes later on their next shift to prevent this from becoming a 5-3 game and keeping the Kraken at least in it for a little bit longer. They do pull the goaltender with it 4-3 with just under 2 minutes left. It doesn't end up being enough, and with less than a second left in the game, Connor wraps the puck into the empty net to get the score to 5-3, and the game will finish there, obviously. So really, this game in summary, I think can be boiled down to the Kraken played well for the vast majority of it, but found a way to lose with a handful of stupid mistakes that the Jets were a good enough team to be able to capitalize on, especially considering the Kraken seemed to make those mistakes when the Jets had their best players on the ice. Grubauer certainly didn't have a fantastic game either, but while it is tempting to put a game like this on the goaltender with him letting in a couple that you'd like to see him stop, this is far from entirely his fault with the defensive mistakes that led to 3 of those Winnipeg goals. In the end though, when all is said and done with this game, the biggest story coming out of it, and certainly what it's most going to be remembered for long term, is what we talked about at the beginning with the historic first all-black TV broadcast that the Kraken put together with Everett, Fitzhugh, and JT Brown, and the fantastic job that those guys did, providing the soundtrack to an annoyingly frustrating Kraken loss. Still though, I guess the team was at least competitive, and there were some positives if they can continue to build on them, like the first power play and the penalty kill. If they can keep this up rather than what they've done over the last couple of weeks, that would also be fantastic. Keep shooting like they shot in this game, and get more guys to the net, and the Kraken will be able to get more wins in games like this one. And of course, as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section on this game by the Kraken, and especially what you thought of the broadcast by Everett and JT. Otherwise, we have reached the end of this one, so if you have made it to this point, thank you very much for watching. If you did like or enjoy this video, there are buttons for that kind of stuff down below that help us support the channel, so I'd appreciate you using them. And until next time, stay safe out there, be good to each other, and go Kraken.